Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tyria, then, episode 23. I'm here with Miko, and we're still playing Guild Wars. What's up, Miko?
What's up? Yes, we are still playing Guild Wars.
And for episode 23, this episode I feel like is a big deal.
Yeah.
Not because 23 is any sort of numeric milestone, but because we've finally broken the surface of getting out of Kaineng City.
Yes.
You ever watch a movie where someone's like sinking in quicksand?
Mm-hmm.
And
that was us last episode.
Yeah, the moment they surface and they take that lungful of fresh, beautiful, sweet, clean air.
Uh-huh.
That was me when I went through the portal into Pongmei Valley.
After wading through raw sewage.
Yes. Yeah, no, actual, flowing
literally.
sewage. Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And that it didn't give us a debuff or anything like that.
No, it's just visually icky.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. Mm-hmm.
So we managed to get a lot of new scenery under our belts this episode. Actually, we kind of do some traveling, some real traveling here.
Yeah.
In episode 23, Miko, what has happened in the Guild Wars factions storyline up to this point?
So, in our previous episode, we were tasked with stopping Shiro, or at least trying to, by liberating the spirits of Canthan heroes that he had imprisoned and had essentially was bending to his will in order to enslave them and fight for him. He made them into his own little Shirokin, and we had to free them. In order to get the main ghost that he had been after, and that was Vizu, who was integral to his defeat last time, 200 years ago.
Yes. And after we did that, Vizu kind of pointed us in the direction of these two artifacts from the Luxons and the Kurzicks, who are kind of the tribes who live in the south of the Canthan continent. They are outside of the Dragon. I think they're vassal states of the Dragon Empire, maybe?
Maybe.
Or they're completely separate. I'm not sure how that works. But they live outside of Kaineng City, kind of to the south. And the Luxons have the spear of their hero, Archimedes, and the Kurzicks have the urn of their hero, Saint Victor. These two guys are the guys who helped Vizu kill Shiro all those years ago. And Vizu's like, you got to get that spear and that urn, because that's how we're gonna have to do it again, right?
Right.
So that's kind of our new task, and we spawn out of Danika Temple into an outpost called Xinkou Corridor, which last episode I criticized the existence of Xinkou Corridor a little bit. And
did you change your mind to this time?
I did, yeah, because I actually went and wandered around the outposts.
Okay.
And it turns out if you just go up the stairs and go behind where you initially spawn, there's a whole temple to the six gods there, and there's a guy you can talk to, and he's like, yeah, this temple's way older than Danika Temple, and it's way cooler.
I did not wander up that way. I don't know that I've ever wandered up that way. I'm going to have to go looking now.
Yeah, so this guy's name, when you spawn in Xinkou Corridor, if you go wander over to the temple section, this guy's name is Rasongkai, and he's basically the caretaker of the Xinkou Corridor temple. And he basically confirms your theory from last episode, Miko, about Danika Temple, except it's actually about the adjacent temple at Xinkou. That the temple was there long before the city, and the city was kind of built up around it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and he basically says that this temple at Xinkou Corridor used to be a small hill, right? And then the city kind of came up around it, and Danika Temple is the much newer temple. Xinkou Corridor is the temple where you go to worship the gods, and then Danika Temple is where you go to commune with the spirits of ancient heroes. So very different things.
Very interesting.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, there's a similar guy I talked to at Temple of the Ages and Prophecies named Brother Theophilus. And they both have, I thought it was a copy-paste of the dialogue at first, but it's actually not. But they both have a similar message. If you ask both of these guys about the gods, they'll basically say that, hey, I know everybody worships their patron god, but actually every god has something to offer everybody. So he kind of reiterates that that dialogue from Brother Theophilus in Prophecies.
Right, because you'd mentioned last time that this was the way to get into the underworld and Fisher of Woe.
Yep.
Right?
This is the mirror outpost for factions for the Temple of the Ages in Prophecies. It serves the same purpose. And yeah, there's a nice little temple area if you go and just walk up the stairs a little bit. So I think that's cool that they kind of remembered that that's like a key function and that they kind of worked it into the outpost lore there. It's pretty nice.
Nice.
Yeah, I quite like that. And then I believe we spawn right in front of a guy who will give us a quest called Meeting with the Emperor.
Yes. Is he not the Emperor's voice?
He is the Emperor's voice, yeah. And he basically says, go meet with the Emperor, and then the Emperor sends us right back to meet with the Emperor's voice. It's very disjointed. How did your meeting with the Emperor go?
Exactly as you said. He's like, oh, we've got to stop Shiro. Go talk to the Emperor's voice, and he'll tell you what to do next.
Yeah, not terribly enlightening conversation with the Emperor.
No. I mean, he does tell you that he thinks we might have an in with the youngsters of the Kurzick faction.
Yes.
Because they seem to be a little bit annoyed that their elders are doing nothing. They just seem locked in war with the Luxons, and that's about it.
Yeah, so there's a whole lot about like the culture of the Luxons and the Kurzicks, mostly the Kurzicks, in this episode. So we'll have to like kind of dive into what those are. But essentially, the Kurzick tribe, civilization, faction, Guild Wars factions, is I said the name of the. They're kind of undergoing like a 1960s style like cultural revolution of the young people, the young folks. The Kurzicks live in the forest, and it's a forest that was kind of turned into petrified wood, like stone wood, by that big jade wind explosion from Shiro Tagachi when he died 200 years ago. You can see all this in the CGI trailer. The CGI trailer does a really good job of setting up the game.
Yeah.
I highly recommend that anyone who's about to start this game blind watch the CGI trailer before you start.
And then listen to our episode.
Yeah, and then listen to our whole show, actually. So yeah, basically what the Emperor says is he's got a meeting with this guy named Count Petrov Zuheltzer, who is like, if not the leader of the Kurzicks, he is a high-ranking nobleman of the Kurzicks, of like one of their strongest noble houses. And he's there for some like war meeting, like the Canthan Empire, the Empire of the Dragon, like arbitrates the war between the Luxons and the Kurzicks.
Isn't that really ironic? I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know how arbitrated war works.
Yeah, but they act as essentially like a go-between to try and figure out like what are your terms. Apparently, they have annual terms of war.
Yeah.
Which is like, okay, we're going to be at war forever, but these are the rules we're going to abide by, which I suppose sounds very...
So they're there for, like, the annual Geneva Convention.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and the Count Zuheltzer guy, he's brought his daughter with him,
yes.
And the Emperor's like, quick, while I distract Count Petrov, go sway his daughter to our cause.
Yeah,
and the
that
reason,
was, I thought, quite funny.
Yeah, the reason he thinks she's gonna help us is because the young people of the Kurzicks, like her generation, are kind of fed up with, I think he says, hiding in the forest while life passes them by.
Yeah.
Because they're like pretty mired in like tradition, and they have a lot of like mystics and like elders that they call redemptors, which we learn a little bit about when we meet one of them later. And they kind of like direct the Kurzicks on how to proceed, but they like deliberate for a long time on stuff, right?
Long time, yes.
They're kind of their own bureaucracy. So the young folks in the Kurzicks are not happy, and the Emperor is thinking that Danika, the daughter of the Count, might be able to hook us up with the Urn of Saint Victor, essentially.
Right. Yep.
So we got to go meet her.
Yes.
And that's what the Emperor's voice tells us to go do.
Yes. I was like, I don't know why we needed to be told twice to go do the same thing, but okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Maybe
redundant...
the Emperor's Voice had a map for us. I don't know.
Yeah, well, because maybe he does have a map for us because he tells us to go find Danika, but he doesn't, like, in the dialogue, he doesn't, like, tell us where she is. We just get a star on our map.
Yeah.
And so we go do that. The Emperor as we said, the Emperor believes she can help us. Menlo's gonna come with us to the Kurzicks because the Kurzicks like Menlo.
Apparently Menlo did some service, he did something pretty special, and they're in his debt. So the Emperor and the Emperor's Voice think that Menlo's going to be able to give us some leverage. And the fact that the Count actually likes him and has been worried about him ever since apparently the searing.
Yeah, because they think basically we don't know if the Kurzicks know that Menlo's even still alive. But apparently he's he's like Paul Revere to them or something. I don't know.
This episode and the Menlo drops, I just laughed the entire time.
There's some juicy bits with Menlo in this episode. And it starts
with this quest.
It does. Basically. Yeah, it really does. But yeah, all the info we have for now is that Menlo assisted the Zuheltzers with something in the past, and so he's a pretty cool guy over there. So he's going to come with us. We have to go find Danika in the Sunjiang district, which is like the southernmost district before you get out of Kaineng City.
Yeah.
And it looks like all the other Kaineng City places.
Yeah.
It's not interesting. But it's there's a little scene when we find Danika. What's going on when we run into Danika?
So there are the corpses of some Canthan guards on the ground, and there's a child that she is trying to comfort. The child's name, I believe, is Kimmy. And Danika is trying to comfort her because Danika has had to kill her parents in front of her because they were trying to eat her alive. They were trying to eat the child alive.
Yeah, this is pretty dark because the corpses are just called Canthan Guard, and you're like, oh, she had to save the child, but the two Canthan Guards in question are actually the child's parents, and they were trying to eat her. It's like straight out of have you seen the 2004 remake of Dawn of the Dead?
I haven't, but yes, but okay.
It's like straight out of
straight out of that.
Yeah, because in that movie, it's actually the parents that are in trouble, and the child is trying to eat them. Yeah. So this is kind of the reverse, but yeah, very scary for Kimmy. Not a lot of follow up with Kimmy. We kind of just talked to Danika.
No. Yeah, I tried to interact with her to see if she would say something, but she didn't.
Okay. I don't think I thought to talk to her, but that was a good idea. Danika does say to us that she's gonna Danika's a noble woman, like she's the daughter of the Count, right? So she's got resources, and she basically says, "Hey, I'm gonna send somebody to look after you, and I'll send food and medical supplies as well."
Yeah.
And there's no servants nearby to make that happen, but she does. Danika does have two pet creatures.
Yes.
And we don't know what these are called yet, and she does not mention them. They're just there.
They're just there, yep.
They're big...
They're wallows.
They're called wallows. Yeah, we'll find out later that they're called wallows.
They look like, kind of armadillos that are on steroids.
I was thinking an armadillo platypus, on steroids.
Yeah, because they're big.
They're very large.
Little things. Yeah.
They're weird looking little guys. I'll probably put them up on the screen.
Yes.
But yeah, we will fight some wild ones later. But for now, what are their names? Sheena and Brutus, yeah. Sheena and Brutus are the two Wallow pets that Danika has. So that must be some sort of creature that's kind of common in the Kurzick area, which that is where we run into most of them. And she basically says that her people blindly follow the rituals and guidance of the Redemptors, which are kind of I get the impression, I don't know for sure, right? But I get the impression that they're the ruling council of elders for the Kurzicks. Separate from the nobility? Separate from the named nobility?
Yeah. It's almost like they're a kind of a priestly class, because they are always talking about consulting the gods and looking for the signs of the gods.
Yeah, they're oracles, I guess. Like oracles that the nobility would like consult on things. So yeah, that kind of deal's going on with the Redemptors, and but the younger generation is fed up with it. As we've already said, she kind of reiterates that for us.
Yeah. Did you notice that her first line to us was a Star Wars throwback?
I didn't know. I totally missed that, and I'm a Star Wars guy. What did she say?
We are here on a diplomatic mission.
Oh, nice. That's great. I like that.
Yeah.
I didn't even catch that at all. That's tight.
Yeah.
I always like me a good juicy Star Wars reference.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
And she basically says that what's happening in the city is horrible, and she like feels bad and is like, we need to take a more active role in assisting because like we have all these resources and we're just sitting in the forest not doing anything. Yeah. So she asks us to meet her somewhere else. She's like, we'll talk about this later.
Yeah, she's like, meet me outside the city gates. And I was like, yes.
Yeah, not I will travel with you to leave the city. Meet me outside the city. I will teleport. Right. You have to walk. That's sort of energy. Because we walk off and she just stays standing there.
Yeah, I was like, are you coming? Oh, no, okay.
Yeah, she does not come with us yet. She will come with us.
Yeah.
So we got to go to... and here's one thing that I did that actually ended up paying off.
What's that?
So I had... Last episode, I mentioned that I had a skill that I wanted to capture in Pongmei Valley. Mm-hmm. And I was leaving Xinku Corridor to do this quest, and I was like, I think this quest takes us through the Matu Keep outpost, but I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. Let's throw this capture signet on my bar just in case it doesn't. And it doesn't. So I threw the capture signet on, and I got to capture my skill without having to like zone back and get it. It was nice.
Excellent.
Yeah,
so now you have a new elite.
I do, yeah. If we want to tangent to an Aaron the Second build update that we seem to be getting every episode, Flashing Blades is out. Assassin's Promise is in.
Excellent.
Deadly Arts has been raised to 10.
Nice.
I now get 15 energy and full skill recharge every time I kill an enemy.
Hey, there you go. You're living the assassin life now.
Yeah, no, the energy problems have been solved. Like, over-solved, if anything.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's funny, like, about this skill, Assassin's Promise, this is generally a skill you use on non-assassin characters, with assassin as your second profession, because it's just a skill that works really well for, like, casters, especially, right? Mm-hmm. But it turns out most of the assassin elites in factions, except for Mobius Strike, suck. So I don't have a lot of options. So it looks like we're going Assassin's Promise, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on with me now. It's pretty great. I have ditched the pet entirely.
Okay.
I'm sticking with Ranger for Antidote Signet because that's like... this whole podcast has resulted in me like being a big Antidote Signet advocate. So that's...
After refusing to put it on your bar for so long in prophecies.
Yeah, mea culpa.
Yeah.
Because it's an excellent skill. And then I'm playing with a skill called Impale, which is also a Deadly Arts skill. Mm-hmm. And it comes at like the end of your attack chain because it has to follow a dual attack. And it just does like a bunch of earth damage.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'll see if that stays. If I don't like it, I can just bring the pet back.
Right.
So yeah, that's how Aaron is doing build-wise. A little better than last episode.
Good.
So did you how'd you find getting to Pongmei Valley? How was that for you?
Well, I wrote down in my notes, oh, what fun it is to wade through sewage to get out of a city.
That's a good poem.
Yes.
You were in the Christmas spirit while you were doing this, I see.
I was listening to Christmas music a lot because it's my coping mechanism lately. And, yes, the thing with the sewage that you have to wade through, run through. One, I keep thinking I wanted to shudder and I couldn't remember the scared emote after I got out because it literally just skeeves you out.
It does.
I felt like I needed a shower afterwards. You have the raw sewage, and then on top of that, friends, there is steam coming off of it.
There is hot. Yeah, it's warm.
it is not good. And I'm like, this place stinks. I'm like gonna be disgusting after getting out of here. Like, is there a river that we can wade through and wash ourselves off when we get out of this hot mess?
Yeah, when we
Literal
climb
hot
out of
mess.
when we climb out of a sewage pipe and fall
Ugh.
into the like draining sewage, and finally get to like the green rolling hills of Pongmei Valley.
Yeah.
That is what the next area is called. And yeah, it really is like that moment where your character is almost drowning in whatever movie and they finally get to the surface, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I felt like Frodo had just pulled me out of the Anduin River, right? I don't know if that's actually the river. It's just the only river from Lord of the Rings I could remember.
That's
But
okay.
someone, a Tolkienian can correct me.
Right.
but
and likely will.
Yeah, no, that knocks our Lord of the Rings reference out for this episode, though. Now we're
There you
free
go.
and clear to just
Yeah.
talk about Guild Wars.
The only difference between this and Star Wars is that we weren't being crushed in the sewage.
I should have had a trash compactor mission.
Yeah, with
in
no
this.
trash compactor, so I mean, thank you, ArenaNet, for not doing that to us.
What is the name of that little? Are either of us Star Wars knowledgeable enough to know what the name of that little eyeball monster is in the trash compactor?
No, I can't remember, but I do know what you're talking about.
That thing always
I don't
grossed
remember.
me out so much when I was a kid.
Yep.
They should have put one of those, like, just not like fightable, just like a little graphic where the eye pops up every once in a while. That'd have been great.
Just to, while you're going through the sewage.
Yeah, no, I would enjoy that immensely. ArenaNet, people who are still working on Guild Wars 1, I know you listen to the show. Get on that. We'll see if they heed our advice.
Nah, they won't. But
They won't. Yeah. Did you see the little crabs in Pongmei Valley?
Yes.
They're called lurkers.
Yes.
They're not hostile.
No.
I think you can capture them.
You can
as a
capture
pet.
them.
Yeah, I'm getting this because like Pongmei Valley it's bordered on one side. It's like a nexus point, right? It's bordered on one side by the city, one side by the Ekavald kind of petrified stony forest of the Kurzicks, and one side by like the Jade Sea of the Luxons.
Mm-hmm.
But we find the crabs near the city.
Yeah.
I think these are sewage crabs.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
It is, because they're like perched right on the edge of the cliff that overlooks the sewage
They're
coming out of the
just
city.
cockroaches. Oh, God, this is getting worse.
Yeah, more or less they are the carrion what's the scavengers, the carrion scavengers of the refuse of Kaineng City.
Right.
There's only a couple of them, but I thought it was weird that there's just crabs in the middle of this grassy plain.
Yeah.
And Danika meets us over by an outpost called Matu Keep, which I think you forgot to grab.
I forgot to grab it because I forgot that, yes. I forgot that you could just run into it.
Yeah.
And so I did not grab it.
Yeah, it's right up the little ramp there. I did do a tiny little side quest out of Matu Keep. What's it called? It's called Stemming the Tide.
Okay.
There's a government lady named Attendant Yoko in Matu Keep. This is a really tiny outpost. It's just like the outpost that serves as the city gate, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of just a circle. It's got a guy who's a map maker in it. His name is like Map Maker something, and he does not have a quest.
Huh.
I think he is involved in a quest later.
He might, later on.
Because his name is Sekai the Map Maker. You'd think he'd be like a thing.
Yeah, I mean, when you get a name,
Matu
that
Keep
references your job. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you'd think he'd be like, "Hey, I need help making a map." I don't know. I'm sure he'll come into play at some point. Matu Keep kind of trolls you a little bit with the henchman situation. Jamie is an NPC in this outpost. She is not a recruitable henchman.
That sucks.
Yeah, no, because Jamie's the goated healer who has like actual healing abilities.
Like her.
Yes, we like Jamie. And then there is a collector in Matu Keep named Dye Master Frangic. And he's looking for pulsating growths, which are like the little knobs, like tumorous knobs you pull off of.
Is he using them to make dye?
He is indeed, yeah. He says when they're boiled, they make a good base for dyes.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you're like that yellow dye that you got dropped from whatever,
oh boy,
it might be boiled pulsating growths. So
that's great.
Yeah, there's a couple fun collectors this episode. I think another one of them comes up a little later in the Kurzick area. But this Stemming the Tide quest is basically Attendant Yoko says that there are refugees fleeing the city because they're in fear of the plague. And the government wants to keep people in the city. I don't know how good of an idea that is.
I remember this quest. I remember running this quest way back in the day.
This is a weird quest. Because basically you exit. She basically says go convince them to come back. So we have to go out, and there's just a bunch of refugees that are walking every which way with exclamations over their heads, and you go talk to them. Yeah, and they have like some of them just won't go back. Some of them are like, yeah, I don't trust the government. I won't go back.
I mean, yeah.
The primary attitude of the ones who won't go back are, I don't trust the government.
Right.
And even the ones you can convince to go back, they're like, I don't trust the government, but I do trust Master Togo. I'll go back.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So they're basically using you with the Togo card.
Yeah, Master Togo really is just Albus Dumbledore.
He really is.
Like, people would vote for him if he ran. He just doesn't run.
Yeah. Right.
He's just the man.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the refugees has like a wild story about it. Have you seen the movie Spaceballs?
Yes.
They do the cousins, brothers, sisters, former roommate, like they do that in this guy's dialogue.
Right.
Yeah, he says that he heard from like someone 8 relations down the line that the city might be safe to go back to. So he'll go back.
So he goes back.
Yeah, and we have to convince 5 people to come back. And the overall vibe is that people have completely lost faith in the Canthan government. And that's more why they're fleeing the city. Not because of the plague, but because the government cannot deal with the plague.
Yeah.
So indirectly because of the plague, but more because of the powers that be being incompetent. So, of course, now that I've convinced 5 of these refugees to come back, I go back to Attendant Yoko and I tell her this. And she's like, great, we'll have them all back in no time. Things are really looking up for us.
So it's like just more delusional government.
It's the whole vibe of like, I don't actually care what's going on as long as I can give my boss a piece of paper that says success on it.
Yeah,
right.
Pretty much.
She's like, cool, job done, not my problem anymore, thank you. Which is the most Canthan Empire thing I've ever experienced.
Yeah,
honestly.
The bureaucracy is the name of the Canthan government. Really,
yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
So that was a bizarrely poignant side quest. We can finally talk to Danika here, and she's standing with a guy named Redemptor Carl.
Yes, outside of Matu Keep.
And this is one of the longest conversations in Guild Wars history. Yeah.
I like that when you actually click on her, she's like, I'm glad you came. I wasn't sure if you'd actually show up. I was like, oh, wait, okay. You told us to, the Emperor told us to, of course we're going to show up.
I was like, I'm just like, do you not understand that I just do what NPCs tell me? Like, I don't have anything else going on.
Yeah. I'm playing this game. Tell me your story.
You're like, I'm the protagonist. Of course I'm going to show up.
Right.
So I just... this conversation is so weird because it's playing out in the, like, dialogue boxes on the screen, and then it's also recorded in the chat box.
Thank goodness. Yeah,
because the back and forth of the dialogue is so fast between the characters.
Yeah.
What were you able to glean out of this conversation?
So, Danika is absolutely shocked at what she's seen in the city. And she's like, this plague is out of control. We've got to help these people. We've got to do something. And the Redemptor is like, I'm sure they're doing all that they can. We can send food and supplies.
He's not having it, yeah.
No, like, I mean, we can do the bare minimum of, like, helping the refugees by giving the government supplies, but that's about all we can do.
Well, because
that just not having it.
Yeah, because that harkens back to the quests we're doing in, like, Wajin Bazaar, right? Like, who knows who's sending this medical supplies over, but once it gets there, it sits in a warehouse until a video game protagonist comes and makes somebody hand it out.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit too much like real life.
It really is.
Yeah.
The game is very oddly poignant for the COVID pandemic that struck the world a couple years ago. Because spoiler alert, guys, this happens pretty much every time there's a pandemic of some sort. This is generally how it goes.
Yeah, or wartime, and there's like supplies trying to get in, and then the supplies don't get to the people that need it. It's always this. Yep. This is what ends up happening, sadly.
Yeah.
But Danika's just not having it. She's just like, no, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna go and help my new friends here, and we're gonna give them the Urn of Saint Victor.
And he's like, yeah, about that.
Yeah. He's like, no, I think that's we can't do that.
Yeah, he doesn't think it's a good idea to give us the Urn of Saint Victor. He's a redemptor, so he's like part of the Council of Oracles or whatever the hell. I think that they're like governing sages or something like that.
Right.
And Danika does finally convince him to let us like talk to her father about maybe getting the urn.
Yeah.
She refers to us. She says we look like, quote, sturdy heroes. And that she thinks we might be able to brave the cathedral's defenses. Now, this is all mystery speak to us right now.
Right.
But it's also ominous, right? We're like, wait, what? You don't just have the urn? Our character doesn't say that, but me, the player, I'm just like, oh, I'm going to have to, like, do something.
Yeah. It's funny because before she finally convinces him to, like, try to get it, he's like, oh, well, all right, well, if Shiro's back, because this is what she tells him to essentially finally convince him. She's like, well, we've got to do something immediately. I'll call a holy council. And she's just like, great. 24 days of you guys deciding whether or not there are omens and portents in the skies to decide whether or not we're actually going to do something.
Mystical bureaucracy, much more powerful than paper and pencil bureaucracy.
Yeah.
He eventually acquiesces when she brings up the fact that like Shiro is on the move now, right? And Carl also mentions that there's a, quote, little problem in the cathedral where the urn is stored.
Yeah.
But he won't tell us anymore. He says the Zuhelzers will only discuss it with Menlo because Menlo's the man.
Menlo is the man.
Yeah. All he tells us is that we're to go find the lift operator.
Yes.
Again, no super clear directions. Just go find the lift operator. I don't know. You're playing a video game. Go to the star.
Yeah. So the Kurzicks are so they've got these interesting names for being Canthan, right? So the Carl, Danika, the lift operators, I think Schultz.
Saint Victor, Viktor.
Yeah.
Is his name really Schultz?
Yes.
That's funny.
Shulz.
That's good.
And he's like, it's my duty to guard the entrance to the Arborstone. But, I can't let you in.
Yeah, on our way to the lift operator, we do go through an outpost called Tanglewood Copse.
Copse?
And Copse, yeah. Copse? Copse?
Yeah.
Copse.
Copse.
Like a grouping of trees, right?
Yes.
Okay. I've never been. I think I've always read that word and never heard it said out loud.
It happens.
I've always thought it was Copse. That's amazing. Yeah. So Tanglewood Copse. This outpost was Luxon for me. What about you?
It was as well for me.
Yeah. So the war between the Kurzicks and the Luxons is something that ArenaNet implemented as like a player PvP feature, and guilds in the game. If you are so inclined to join a guild, you can choose Luxon or Kurzick as a faction and fight for that team, and you can like encroach into enemy territory and take over their outposts.
Yeah.
And right now I think Luxons have swept the board.
Yeah.
I don't think the Kurzicks own any of their own like territory outposts.
Think of this as like what became in Guild Wars 2. It's sort of like an early iteration on World versus World.
Yes. Yeah, it's kind of the where the idea came from, and you can see that with in Guild Wars 2 recently. They've been talking about the whole alliance deal, right? And that's kind of started here in factions. You can put your guild into an alliance of other guilds and do something called alliance battles, which is like Kurzick versus Luxon, Kurzick guilds versus Luxon guilds, in like a big PvP thing. So yeah, there's some real bones of the larger scale PvP happening here, which is kind of cool. But it also meant I couldn't use any of the merchants at the outpost.
Couldn't use any of them either.
And all my favorite henchmen got deleted as well.
Yep.
Not a huge fan of the split. Here's the thing: the split in henchmen makes sense narratively, right?
Yes.
The students from Togo's like monastery go with Togo, and then like kind of the newer henchmen, Menlo's like Prophecy's gang, like Devona and Eve and stuff, go with Menlo, and then Lo Sha tags along with Menlo too for some reason.
Right.
They were like, we need more henchmen.
Yeah.
Did you try talking to the henchmen here?
In Tanglewood Copse, I did not. I talked to them after Arborstone mission.
Okay. Did you find any of their speech blurbs interesting?
After Arborstone, I did, yes.
Which ones did you like?
Hang on, I gotta find them in my notes. I saw Lucas. Lucas in after Arborstone
Who is Kurzick?
It has the hots for Danika.
Okay, gotcha. That's funny.
Yeah, and is trying everything to get her attention and to woo her, to show her that he is like the guy that she should be with.
To show her that he's not the goofball that he actually is.
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't seen Lucas since Xingje Island.
Well, no, he was like hanging out in, I think it's Wajin Bazaar.
Right, yeah, he's one of the people. He's one of the people we go
over.
talk to for that one quest.
Yeah, but he's apparently like trying everything that he can to get Danika's attention. He hired minstrels to woo her, and he's like, I don't know, I think that was a mistake. You think it was a mistake? Yeah, maybe it was a mistake. I think maybe it's time to commission a statue, or perhaps write a play recounting my great deeds. And I'm like, oh no.
I want to watch the play written by Lucas.
Right?
The warrior henchman.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And so then by the time he's done like talking, he's like, thanks for the advice. Did you need something? And then the Mesmer, who's called the Domination henchman, is a Kurzick, Eris Vesberg. And he apparently has the hots for Danika as well.
And at a later point, Menlo also refers to Danika as, quote, quite a woman.
Yes! Everybody's got the hots for Danika. And so, yeah, Vesberg is like, it's his mission in life to defend the beauty in the world. And by beauty, he's really referring to Danika.
Big Mesmer energy here.
Oh, yeah. And,
yeah, I didn't talk to anybody after Arborstone. So you talked to these people in Altram Ruins.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't talk to anybody in Altram Ruins. I talked to them at, like, the Arborstone mission outpost.
I liked that the devs are carrying this energy on of, like, you know, Danika is, like, delicious to the men, apparently.
There's so much henchman drama. It's great.
And then here's Sin. You interact with her, and she's like, I should ask Menlo if he has any old acquaintances among the Kurzicks. And you can hear the sarcasm just dripping in that one sentence.
The venom. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no, and Menlo does have old acquaintances in the Kurzicks. He's like,
oh yeah,
like when he's, oh my god, we'll talk about the conversation he has with Togo in the next primary quest later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also got that snippet from Sin. Nika is available as a henchman. She's like, you kind of like have to take her. I think it's between her and someone else who sucks. Her and like Aiden or something. And I was like, I'll take Nika. And then she didn't really have anything interesting to say. She was marveling that the trees have windows in them. She hasn't been out of the city much.
She's never been out of the city, yeah.
Eve remains kind of dark and edgy. She's like, I like the dark and the quiet of the forest.
Yeah, she likes it. She likes the forest.
She also likes the city because it stinks of death. So Eve is an optimist as far as I can tell. She's always looking on the bright side, and by the bright side I mean the dark and dead side.
Yeah.
She's a goth optimist.
Yes.
Professor Guy indicates that he feels the Kurzicks are very talented in, quote, speech and theory. Yeah. And he says that this makes them his intellectual equals.
Yes.
Which checks out for Professor Guy, because he was a dick to us back in, like, Zendaijan, or I don't know when that was, but at some point in Xingje, he was a dick.
Yeah.
And then Jamie and Loshaw just have nothing to say.
Yeah, and Aiden thinks that the Kurzicks are beautiful people.
I did, and he's probably been looking at Danika. Like, with how much everyone else is looking at Danika, I think Aiden probably is too.
Probably is too, yeah.
So some good entertaining henchman banter. I love that they update the henchman blurbs throughout the game.
Yeah.
It's very high quality entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we do eventually leave the Tanglewood Copse and get to the lift operator. We gotta. This is an interesting twist in that we have to go to the mission explorable area before we do the mission.
Yeah.
Because you go to the Arborstone explorable area to do this. Usually they don't let you into the mission explorable area until after you've completed it. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a little twist that the game's given us. What do you think of the Ekevald Forest, like visually? Do you like it?
Yeah, it's always been one of my more favorite areas. Especially, it's like when you walk out of Kaineng City and all of its drab brownness. Ekevald having a bit more color in it. I mean, and they've got cool things like big tall trees.
Yeah, because it's not just gray. There's a lot of like dark blue, and then there's like bright greens that kind of like bright deep greens that kind of augment everything. And it looks very like low light but satisfying. Yeah,
and then they have interesting features like stained glass in the middle of trees, and not just in like cathedrals. So it adds that. It's a bit more colorful.
It's kind of a vampire goth aesthetic.
Yeah.
And it's executed pretty well. I enjoy the Ekevald Forest as well. The Kurzicks match this aesthetic with how they dress.
Very much so.
They're super goth.
Oh yeah.
They all look like they're on their way to a Marilyn Manson concert.
Yes.
I don't know if the idea is that their skin is pale because like there's no light in the forest, or if they like wear a shit fuckload of makeup.
I think it's the makeup, because I was picking up one of the primary quests from, I think it was Headmaster Amara, and I was like, I zoomed in on her face and I'm like, is she wearing like a version of a no mask, or is that just a fuck ton of makeup? And no, it was a fuck ton of makeup.
Okay. Yeah, and that checks out, right? The Kurzicks, they like doing the bright white makeup on their face to kind of accentuate their black their black clothing that's so edgy. The Kurzicks are great. Lots of goth flavor with the Kurzicks. So that's kind of a microcosm of their culture for anybody who isn't super up to date with that. And the lift that we take up to kind of the Arborstone mission outpost is, so I assume you noticed the hamster wheel.
It is. It's a hamster wheel.
Yeah, because you started laughing, so I was like, she noticed the hamster wheel.
Oh yeah, I mean, how could you not? Like the cutscene just like focuses in on the hamster running the wheel, or the wallow running the. It is
a wallow in a hamster wheel. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's what are those? Is it called a gondola? This kind of lift?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I think you can refer to these as a gondola, but it's
a gondola. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like when you'd take over an alpine viewing, right?
Yes. You can take them up mountain sides even here in the States.
Yeah, they're like recreational little things.
Yeah.
They're not usually powered by a hamster wheel.
By hamsters, no. No.
But this is a fantasy gondola, so of course it is powered by a wallow and a hamster wheel. A wallow wheel.
A wallow wheel. Yes.
And that's how we get up to this like little stone gazebo that we meet.
And then Schultz, the lift operator's like, it's a little bit. He doesn't use the word janky. Well, he uses a different word, but it's essentially like it kind of herky jerky motion is how he describes it. And then, you get the cutscene and you see that it's, peddled by a Wallow. And I'm like, well, of course it's going to be herky-jerky. Look at the poor thing that has to make it go.
Yes. And the Wallow wheels us up to a cutscene with Danika and her fully blindfolded father.
Yes.
Do you think he's a ritualist? He's got a blindfold on.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Possible. Yeah, sure. None of the other... Did any of the other Kurzicks have a blindfold?
No, I don't think so, no.
Think it's a fashion choice, or...
Maybe it's a fashion choice because, gothy Kurzicks.
Yeah, it could be like lace or something that you could like see through, right? Yeah, it's a he's got like a popped collar. It's great.
It's great, yeah.
Something I noticed about, is there anything that stood out about the Count Zuhelzer to you?
He has really good voice acting.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yes, he's some of the best voice acting we've seen in the game so far.
It has been a long time since we last met, Brother Menlo.
The missions that we played through or the quests that we played through for this episode, some of the best voice acting we've encountered thus far in Faction.
Some of the best and some of the worst, because the gene for good voice acting did not pass down from father to daughter.
I wrote down that she sounds kind of like a whiny teenager, which I suppose matches, like, if she's supposed to be like this noble woman who's been kind of coddled, and then it kind of would
the idealistic rich kid is the
idealistic
archetype.
Rich kid. Yeah, there you go.
She says something
insulated and whatnot.
Yeah, I've got the quote written from what she says later in the mission. She goes, "Lissa be damned."
Yes.
It's I'll insert the actual clip from the game side by side with that for your listening pleasure.
Lissa be damned. I didn't see that one coming. I'm all right.
But yeah, Danika is terribly voice acted. And to just hopping on a train of thought we had from either episode 21 or 22, we were talking about how, like, if you really want to see who voice acts these people, you can just look it up on the wiki. There's actually not a lot of information on who all these voices are.
Yeah.
I tried wikiing who the voice actor for Shiro is. The voice actor for Guild Wars 2 is listed. Nobody really knows who did Shiro in Guild Wars 1. Nobody really knows who did... And if you go to the voice acting section of the wiki and you look at... There's a few characters listed who are voiced by, like, major voice actors. A large swath of the characters that are voice acted in the Guild Wars 1 games, we just don't know who the voice actor is.
I'm telling you, it's the devs.
And I think that lends to your theory that it's just... They just were like, hey, who wants to do a voice?
Yeah, you got some time?
Yeah, I really think you might be onto something there, which I think is very funny. So that's good stuff. There's a lot of mystery bad voice acting in Guild Wars 1. It's great. It could also be that the voice acting was done, and after viewing the final product, the people were like, don't put my name on this. Which is also great. Yeah. That's also very funny. There is a... so at this, before I jump past the cutscene, this is a fully animated cutscene with voice acting.
Yes.
And
Menlo tells us before we get to the Count, I'll do all the talking. And you're like, okay.
He does, yeah. He says it very authoritatively. He's like, I will do the talking.
Yeah.
And he does indeed. We do butt in a few times, but mostly it's him and the Count talking. Right. Everyone's flabbergasted that Menlo is still alive.
Yeah.
But we don't really get to find out what he did.
Yeah, no. I'm like, what did he do? I want to know.
Yeah, he's like the John Rambo of the Kurzicks. Like, they're just like, you destroyed a whole Luxon village with a bow single-handedly, or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, there's just some mystery feat that Menlo accomplished that just makes him the coolest guy to the Kurzicks.
Yeah.
And we basically asked the Count for the urn, and the Count is like, why do you need it? And we're like, Shiro's back, homie. And
he's like, oh crap.
Yeah, the Count is like, oh shit. You do need the urn.
Pretty much.
We changed his mind real quick.
Really, yeah.
And he's like, problem. the urn has been sitting in the old family cathedral, except the Jade Wind kind of blew all the defenses at the cathedral to shit. And
But did you think that it was the Jade Wind that did it? Because it seemed to me like this is a recent thing, that the protections on the cathedral have failed. Because they don't seem to know why.
I have written down that it was the Jade Wind, but I don't actually know if they said that in the cutscene. I might have inferred that mentally, and it might not have happened. Because there's a whole thing going on in the Echovold Forest with one of the elite endgame bosses. Okay. And I think that might actually be what's going on. Okay. We're not going to do Urgos, but I believe a lot of the corruption in the forest is an Urgos thing, isn't it?
I will trust your endgame knowledge, because remember, I was not an endgame player in this game.
I have done Urgos 2 times. I do not remember anything about doing it. Okay. But I watched like a Wooden Potatoes video about Urgos one time. We're going to talk about, when we do the mission, we'll talk about some of the enemies that come up. And then he'll come up again, because we got some weird enemies going on in the Arborstone mission. But for whatever reason or the other, the magical protections of the cathedral have failed, and the guardians inside are A, hostile, and B, like a bunch of hostile wildlife is in there now.
Pretty much, yes.
And they're like, you're gonna have to clear that out.
Yeah, they're like, we'll give you the urn, but you gotta go get it yourself.
Yeah.
You're like,
and Danika basically says, I'll open the door, after that it's up to you.
Yeah.
She does, to Danika's credit, she does come with us on the mission. Like, she's an extra healer.
And she sticks with us.
She does, because we lose Menlo during the mission. He fucks off.
What cracks me up? Okay, so that's the objective of the Arborstone mission: retrieve the urn, and make sure that we, can take it on our way so that we can go and fight Shiro. And so we go in, and so Danika's like, all right, just remember, this place has been pretty special, sacrosanct to my family, it's heavily guarded, I don't know what every warden protection's in place, so we might be running into some crazy shit. But you'll be safe because you're with me.
Yeah, she says nothing in here would dare harm a Zoo Heltzer. As long as you're with me, you're safe. That is thrown out the window immediately. Mm-hmm. Everything in there is hostile to us, including Danika. Danika can die. I failed the fucking mission because Danika died.
No.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Right at the end.
Yeah.
And I whined to Miko about it when it happened.
You did, yes. But anyway, so we go in there and we start clearing the area. And you think, okay, don't overpull. Let's get the urn. She finally, we have to clear out, 5 groups of the wardens, because this is a new enemy type, right? Wardens.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of new enemies, because we are entering a new region of the game. We are out of Kaineng City. We are into the Echovold Forest region. Yes. There are stone scale Kirins, which are you remember the Kirin, the Zendaijin guy.
And the Zendaijin,
Zunra. Yeah, Zunra's a Kirin.
Yes, thank you.
Zunra's a Kirin. And then there's fully leveled hostile Kirins hanging around that are they're called stone scale, so I assume they're Jade Wind corrupted and kind of stony. Right. There's dragon moss, which is just ferns that shoot fire at you. There is undergrowth, which is also ferns that shoot magic at you. Yeah. There are wallows, which are those squat little platypus armadillo guys who are necromancers. Mm-hmm. But chiefly, there are wardens.
Yes, and the wardens come in a variety of flavors. Wardens of the leaf, wardens of the spring,
wardens of the spirit, wardens of the tree, wardens of the branch. Not the same as wardens of the tree.
No.
And there's wardens of seasons, and then there's wardens of summer and spring. I don't know how all that works, but they range in level from 18 to 24. Yeah. And the level 24 ones are really big, so you can tell. Mm-hmm. I believe we don't have a ton of information on these guys.
No, but it seems like they were the ones who were... I got the sense that they were the ones who were guarding the cathedral?
They're like... So, Danika says at some point that it's weird that or might even be the podium guy that says this, that it's weird that the wardens have gotten so close to the cathedral. They mentioned that it's not normal for them to be this close.
Yeah.
So I believe the wardens are like wardens of the forest, right?
Yeah.
Not unlike the Sylvari of Guild Wars 2, but also completely different in every possible way.
Right.
They're like sort of plant people, but not plant people in the same. They're not like made of leaves, right?
No.
And there's an ongoing debate, I believe, as to whether they are servants of or corrupted by Urgos, who's like a tree demon that lives under. It's endgame. Don't think about it too much.
Right.
But they're forest guardians essentially, and they are hostile to us.
Yes.
And they're pretty annoying.
Yeah, they are.
What kind of a time did you have fighting the wardens?
I mean, I am ranged, so I can just spam my spirits and take it carefully to kind of get them down.
Just let your warrior run in and take it on the chin.
Yeah, my warrior and my assassin, and yep.
Yeah,
so
ritualists are really good.
Yeah, and I tried not to over aggro, and tried not to get more than one group at a time. For the most part, I was successful, and so I cleared all the way up the steps and around the back. And so when Danika was like, "Here, just take the urn. Don't worry, Menlo's with us. Everything will be fine." And I was like, "Oh, will it now?" And then I was like, "Where the hell are you? Because you're clearly not with me." And that's when I realized that she's around the back, down the stairs again, and I had to go back and get the urn.
Yeah, you're never quite sure, like, when the NPC... Because there's times in the mission where the NPC will, like, break off and do their NPC thing. And there's times where they will follow you, and you're never sure when these points are going to be. And that's concerning when it is imperative that an NPC survive the mission. I had a tough time with the Wardens because my build relies on me having a hex on a character. And the Wardens have hex removal.
Yeah.
Yeah. When your entire build revolves around killing somebody while this hex is on them and the hex gets removed, your build falls apart very quickly.
Yeah.
So that was fun. But yeah, we gotta clear the wardens out in order. There's 5 groups of them. I think there's 2 bosses. 1 boss?
Yeah. 1 boss, I think, yep.
The boss can vary in profession. Because the first time I did the mission, I got a mesmer. The second time, I got a ranger.
Yep. Those are the 2 that can appear.
Okay, gotcha. And once we get those 5 wardens out of the way, then we can grab the urn from the middle of the cathedral.
Yeah.
And then the cathedral starts to explode.
Pretty much.
And we run for the door.
Well, Menlo says run for it, basically. And who makes it out first? Menlo. Because Menlo can book it. And
he just stands there waving at us like a goofball as we're approaching.
And I'm like, is he trying to like tell us to like come on this way? Like we didn't just. He took off and literally left us in the dust, and it's like, oh hey guys, over here.
And as we're running towards the door, trying to escape our imminent doom, he like waves at us lackadaisically, like it's like a slash wave emote.
And then all of a sudden he's just like, watch out, and everything, like the door and everything just comes crashing down. And it knocks Danika down, and that's when she says your favorite line.
Lissa be damned! Yeah, that's
right.
when she says that. And that's the first time you hear her voice in the game, and it blew me away.
I know.
I was like, oh boy, the voice genes did not get passed from father to daughter on that one. But apparently the men of Tyria really are captivated by the dulcet tones of Danika's
yes.
shrill, screeching voice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that works for people in Tyria. But we now have no Menlo, and we have to get out of the cathedral with Danika another way.
Yeah.
And we got to carry the fucking urn with us.
Yes. Yeah, he's like, I'll meet you on the other side. And you're like, great, you're going to go around the back. Meanwhile, we've got to go and get through.
And the urn itself, it doesn't look so much like an urn as like a really ugly designer handbag.
It's questionably...
It's got rhinestones on it.
It really does.
And they look like cheap rhinestones.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very gaudy piece of kit.
Yeah, and it's very big.
Yes, it is. And when you do take the urn and everything starts exploding and collapsing, there are these dudes that start spawning. Do they spawn when you take the urn, or do they spawn after the door collapses?
I think it's after the door collapses.
Yeah, we got to turn around and fight some of the cooler enemies in the game, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They're called... I just labeled them in the notes as Stone Guardians.
Stone Guardians, that's what I wrote down as well.
Yeah, but they're called, like, Stone Rain and Stone Reaper, right? And they're basically statues that, like, look badass, and they try to kill you. It's pretty cool. The Stone Reapers especially, they have, like, really scary-looking skull faces.
Mm-hmm.
They're basically gargoyles that are, like, alive and trying to kill you. It's great. It's, like, some real Harry Potter shit.
Yes.
Yeah, it's awesome. Some real transfiguration happening here.
We've now worked in every single homage reference that we normally do.
Listen, we gotta pay tribute to our patron franchises every episode.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got dues.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the Stone Guardians a lot. They're not too hard to fight, but the Elementalists are pretty dangerous. We're getting to the stage of the game where Elementalists are not to be fucked with.
Pretty much.
Did you go through... So there's 3... After you kill these guys, you can choose 3 branching paths to get out the cathedral kind of the back way.
Yeah, and Danika is basically... She doesn't know which way is the safest route, which is ironic.
Yeah,
and tells you, no, go down the middle. No, go down the right. No, go... I don't know. And you're like, thanks, kid. Appreciate you.
Yeah, which way did you end up going?
I went down the middle.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
Path. Yeah, no, I think that's the path that I always take, and I think that's because when I started playing, that's what I was told. Yeah, take this route, and I was like, okay.
It's the quickest. It's populated by wardens, which aren't, like, for any average party comp is not that hard. The wardens just hard counter the most important skill on my bar, and that's why I complain about them, but overall they're not very difficult. Mm-hmm. My first run through of this mission, I took one of the side paths that is populated almost entirely by dredge.
I saw that on the wiki that they were there, and I was like, are these the dredge that we know from the... Well, did we run into dredge in the Shiver Peaks?
We did.
Prophecies?
No, we didn't, because we did not do Sorrow's Furnace.
That's right.
So I don't think our characters, or like our accounts, have experienced dredge yet.
Yeah, but are they that same dredge? You fought them. Okay.
I don't know if they are the same tribe or like faction detachment of dredge, but they're the same creature type. The mole people.
Mole people, yes. I was surprised that they were on Cantha.
Yeah, so they get expanded upon in Cantha quite a bit. They pretty heavily populate the Ekavald forest, basically.
Okay, I don't remember that, but that's okay.
Yeah, I don't know what the deep lore is with the dredge, so I don't know if they have, like, tunnels that go, like, connect from Tyria, because I don't think they are seafaring, right?
Right.
But I know they're tunnelers, because they're mole people.
They're mole people.
They're, like, squat little jacked mole people. They're pretty bizarre and creepy looking.
Yeah,
And they're very Russian themed.
Oh, yes, very much so. Even like, in Guild Wars 2. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Kurzicks are kind of like Russian-German themed, kinda?
I would say German, yeah.
Yeah, they've got guys named like Hans and Schultz, right?
Right, Schultz, yeah.
Yeah, very German.
Carl with a K.
Yes, yeah. And then the Dredge are more Russian themed, and they really lean into that in Guild Wars 2, almost to like a parody extent.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had to fight a bunch of Dredge my first time through. They got monks that are kind of annoying, but otherwise they're not really anything to worry about. Mm-hmm. The biggest concern for me was, again, my entire build relies on this one skill, Assassin's Promise. And the fall, as you're running through the cathedral, the wreckage is like falling on you and it knocks you
Yes.
down. I got my elite skill interrupted so many times
Yeah.
by this falling rubble. So my
know,
build
yeah.
essentially is disabled for the duration of this mission.
Yeah, I mean, and the wiki tells you there's a camera shake that happens before you get the cathedral rubble falling on you, so just kind of don't hit your skills that you're gonna need.
But of
once
course
the
I'm
camera
on
shakes.
I'm on autopilot hitting my skills.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so the sideways are very long. They're not as
Mm-hmm.
quick as the middle way. They're not any easier. In fact, I think they may be harder enemy-wise, because again, wardens are not that difficult. And then when I reach the end of the side path, when you get to the area where you're supposed to exit, there's a bridge, and you got to go over it. If you go the middle way, you do not have to go over this bridge. You go under it.
Right.
3 Onis, which are
Pop-ups?
demons. Yeah, that I think we've talked about them. They look like Davy Jones.
Yeah,
from Pirates
you've
of the
run into
Caribbean.
them. Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
And you've run into Oni more than I have thus far until this mission.
Yeah, and they're now level 28,
Yes.
and they're assassins.
Yes.
And they spawn in such a way to where if you're running over this bridge, they can attack you, and you can't attack them back super effectively.
Right.
And they body blocked Danika and killed her.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. So I just went the middle way my next way through, and I didn't have to deal with any of that.
Yeah, there you go.
You
That's
take-
how you do that.
Yeah, take the middle way, guys. It's like, because you'd think that the shortest, most direct way would have the hardest enemies, right? That's like typical game balance. No, the middle way is just the easiest. Just do that.
Yeah.
And we get to this kind of courtyard area once we reach the end. Mm-hmm. And there's I have him in my notes as we have to kill Stone Daddy.
Stone Daddy, yeah, the judge.
Yeah, his name is the Judge or Stone Judge, something like that. He's a big dude. I think he's got a hammer or something.
He's got a hammer. Yeah.
And a lot of these stone
Stone
guys
Judge,
spawn with him.
Yes, he's got an army of stone gargoyles. And the wiki will tell you don't kill the judge too fast. Because as soon as he's dead, Danika will bolt for the door. And if you
And she could get herself killed.
She can get herself killed. And so I was trying to slow my roll and didn't do a very good job and killed the judge too fast. And she took off running and I was like, oh crap.
You spam too many spirits.
Yes. And I went and I think I even called target on him. Like I was like, boss, dead must die now. And I'm like, I read the wiki. I promise you I read the wiki and it just went straight out of my brain. Also the fact that I changed my build going into this mission because I read the wiki and misunderstood one key line about bringing skills that are gonna benefit from holding a bundle. And I was like, wait, I'm gonna just bring all bundle skills. Not all of them. I did bring some spirits. And I brought a different elite, and then I was like, when I'm in it, I'm like, oh, why did I do this? This is stupid.
Because you're supposed to bring skills that you can hold the urn and benefit from.
Yeah.
Instead, you brought skills that put a different bundle in your hands.
Yes. Yes. Well, but if you drop the bundle, Victor will come out and actually put a dome shield around you, which is nice.
Won't.
What do you mean he won't?
No, I said he will.
Oh, he will. Yeah. I was like, what do you mean?
I'm just like, no, he doesn't do that. That's not how the game works.
Yeah, and he'll actually try to protect you and get a couple of skill popped off onto the enemies, so he can be a little helpful. So I was just like, well, I'm gonna drop my spirits, occasionally drop one of these useless bundle skills that I brought with me to maybe do something, I don't know. But really, I just am going to pick up the urn of St. Victor and drop it again, and pick it up and drop it again, just so I could get my little shield bubble.
And I think you can, if you want it to be like maximum effective, I think you can charge it up by eating attacks while holding it.
Yeah, probably.
As a backline, like support player, I don't know how effective that is as a mechanic.
No, because the melee like to run past and come for me, and the monks. So
yes, they do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, no. So I had one bundle skill that was supposed to boost my armor. if I think dropped it, and I was like, well, maybe I'll play with this one, and I'm like, I don't know why I brought any of these skills because they all suck. And next time I'll just bring my spirit spamming build and just keep on the way I've been playing.
Yeah, I had to. I made the realization because I'd never checked all of the henchman skill bars, just like a few of them that I was curious about. I checked Chio, the ritualist henchman's skill bar this episode. Yeah. She is a Signet of Spirits spirit spammer, like offensive spirit spammer. Chio is now a default pick if she's available on the roster. That's too good to not take. Yeah. They take her away for the Echevald Forest, so I did not have access to any spirit spamming. Only Professor Guy's kind of... he's a restoration ritualist, so he more or less fills the healer role. So that's good, but Chio's the ritualist henchman that I'm really gunning for, and we don't get her until we do the Luxon mission. Because she's an academy student. Yeah, she's an academy student, so she's following Togo to the Luxon area. I didn't have too hard of a time with the Stone Judge fight. I think I saved him till last on purpose, because I think I'd failed the mission before in the past due to that Danika thing. Because I remembered that I wanted to save him for last, but I didn't really know why. I just kind of did it. So yeah, that went okay for me. But failing it at like the very end due to Danika getting stuck on that bridge was pretty brutal.
I thought she was gonna die when she went after the door, and there was a bunch of like little stone minions still around.
They're dangerous.
So I dropped the urn and just tried to like bide her some time, and she did finally get the door open. And
then she, in the cutscene, once we get the door open and we run through, she reseals it. Because
she does.
It's like not fun in there. It's bad.
Yeah.
Like we made it out, but we did not clear it out.
No, we don't want any of that crap to come and follow us.
Yeah, the Dredge and the Stone Guardians and the Wardens can fight each other in there without us. There are also some creepy little enemies called Blood Drinkers in there. If you take the side routes, I don't know if they show up on the middle route.
No, they're on a side route.
I think they're just the final evolution of the Mantids. They use the same skins as the Mantids, I think.
Yeah, and they're necromancers, which is just, fitting for their name.
Yeah, no, and there's like a boss. One of them was called... The boss was called Dark Fang, which is a great boss name for a blood drinker.
Very vampiric.
Yeah, he wasn't very hard. I killed him. And then I failed the mission. And then I went down the middle. And we spawn, once we finish the mission, we make it out with the urn and Danika alive, and we spawn at a place called Altrum Ruins, which is another challenge mission.
But now hang on, because we get a cutscene.
Is there a whole cutscene that I skipped here? I didn't write down any of it. Tell me about the cutscene.
So the cutscene, Menlo is like waiting for us, and he's just like, "Hey, glad you could make it." And I'm like, "Thanks, Dick."
Yeah, no, he's kind of smarmy, isn't he? He's kind of smug.
And then he basically starts to like cheekily flirt with Danika.
Yeah, and to my knowledge, I always got the impression from prophecies that Menlo and Sin are an item.
Yeah. I think Menlo is a playboy.
Menlo's out here like with his showing off his arm tattoos. Like...
I mean, yeah. He totally is.
Yeah, he's like I always wear this sleeveless jerkin. What do you think of my arm tattoos?
Look at my arm tattoos, and like he's got like very well developed arms.
Yeah, no, he's been doing his like handstand monk push-ups at Serenity Temple.
100%.
Yeah, and so he like these fears that Sin has about like women being into Menlo are not unfounded.
No, they're 100% legit, and
because I don't remember if it's Emmy or Chio. One of them has a crush on him.
Oh yeah, everybody it's like everybody's after Danika of the Kurzicks. Everybody's after Menlo.
Yeah, Menlo and Danika are like a power couple.
Yes, they are. That's what would happen.
They're like a super group.
And so Menlo tells us that it's time to report to Togo, because it's one down and one to go.
Yes,
which is I think what our character says.
Yeah, and Togo's whole thing is like, I'm going to go see what I can get done with the Luxons.
Yeah. And Danika bids us that Dwayna will protect us and send us on our way.
I think further into the Ekavald Forest, Danika becomes a healer henchman.
Yes.
Yeah, she does. Because we don't get Menlo as a henchman at any point in this game, because he's part of the story.
Danika is actually available at the Altram Ruins.
Okay, cool. So once you've completed Arborstone, when you're in Kurzick area, you can have Danika with you. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I will have to chit-chat with her if I ever make it over there, which I'm going Luxon for this playthrough, so I don't know if I will.
Right.
We will see. But yeah, we spawn in the Altram Ruins, which is another challenge mission outpost. Did you do the challenge mission?
I did not.
I didn't either. I don't do challenge missions. Get out of here.
I went and built my entire party picking the henchmen that I wanted. And I was like, cool, I'm going to go and do stuff. I'm going to go do the primary quest. And the primary quest sends you backwards into Pongmei.
Yeah,
Valley.
so you thought that we were just going Kurzick.
Yeah. And so, of course, you have to go backwards, and so that means you lose your henchman.
Yeah, we kind of got to do a lateral move here, and then we go actually backwards, back into the city. So this episode, you might think, oh, they just talked about the mission. We're an hour and 15 minutes into the show. This is the end. This is not the end.
Not the end.
Because we did the next mission as well.
We did. We did.
So, without further ado, there is a primary quest that we get from Headmaster Amara in Altram Ruins.
Yes.
And she basically says that Togo let her know that he wants us to meet him. What I love, I've mentioned this a couple times this episode, but this is probably the most egregious example of the quest dialogue not mentioning at all where Togo is. She just says that we are to meet him, and then we get a star on the map that says where to go. And our character just telepathically knows this is where Togo is.
I know, and this is why I was like, okay, cool, we're going. And then I'm like, I opened up my map, and I'm like, we're going all the way back there where we just came. Great.
You were like, I'm going to take all the Kurzick henchmen, I'm going to roleplay.
Yeah. I'm like, it's going to be great. And no.
You were ready for Lucas and Danika banters?
Yeah, I was ready for it, because I took them both in my party. I was ready for it. And Vasberg. I was ready for it.
And then you got this very bizarre conversation between Menlo and Togo in Pongmei Valley instead.
Yes, because we go out there and Menlo or Togo's like, "Hey, so was Count Petrov surprised to see you? Sin's not within earshot, is she?" And Menlo totally does not fall for the bait quite yet.
Yeah, and
he doesn't even turn around to see if Sin is around.
I have a question for you. Is Sin in your party at this moment?
She totally was.
Same.
She totally was. I was like, she's standing right here.
I'm like, bro, Sin is right here behind me.
She can hear everything you're saying right now.
Yeah, and unfortunately there is no interaction with Sin if you do have her in the party. But Sin's worries are not unfounded. Sin might be paranoid, but it's valid in this particular scenario.
Oh, yeah. So he tells us that Petrov he imagines that Petrov was surprised to see him, and then he was even more surprised when his daughter Danika told him she planned to help us. And that's when he says, she's turned into quite a woman.
Yeah, and here's what I'm thinking. I think a lot of this in the chat box plays out in the wrong order.
Okay.
Because I think Menlo is supposed to say that, and then Togo is supposed to say, Sin's not anywhere near, is she?
Yeah, right.
But
which would make more sense.
Yeah, it plays out in the wrong order in the chat box, and I had the rest of the conversation out of order in the chat box too. So I was a little confused, but I got there, right?
Right.
And basically Togo says that we gotta, after the very awkward conversation about Sin, Togo indicates that he has a friend named Elder Rhea. Rhea.
He says Rhea is what I think is what he says in game.
Okay, gotcha.
I always pronounce it Rhea.
I enjoy that every time there is a pronunciation question, I am not correct. It's just how my brain works. I don't know.
It's all good.
I like those long vowels.
Vowels are good.
Yeah, so she's a elder of the Luxons. I think she's part of the Turtle clan, but and there's a Luxon celebration going on right now, as it so happens, called the Convocation, which is the name of this primary quest, the Convocation. And luckily, all the Luxon tribes are in town for the celebration. They're just right over the hill.
So Togo's like, yeah, so I'm not really sure where Rhea is, but I bet you she's there.
Yeah, and he's like, he's like, basically, this is our chance to get the spear. I don't think he explains to us what the Convocation is, but it turns out this is like...
He doesn't really know.
Yeah, well, and
he just thinks it's like a ceremony.
Yeah, and when we get there, it turns out that the Convocation is like the perfect opportunity to get the spear that only happens once a year, and it's somehow happening right now.
Yeah, and it's also like the biggest deal ever in Luxon culture.
Yeah, and it just happens to perfectly line up with when we need the spear. It's very funny.
Of course. Yeah, it's good.
And so we got to head over to a area called Boreas Seabed, which is on the outskirts of the Jade Sea, where the Luxons live.
Yeah, and this is also in this little exchange between Menlo and Togo, we find out that Menlo also knows Elder Rhea.
Yes, because Menlo is like Togo's little prodigy, and Togo's like, now that I'm retired, you have to go be cool, right? And so everybody thinks Menlo's cool too.
Yeah.
He's like not quite on the Togo level, but like he can get you into the club. He can get you into the VIP
club.
section.
I mean, he got us into the VIP section with Count Petrov, so you know.
Menlo skips the line.
Yeah, he does. Totally does.
Yeah, and it makes Sin worried. On the way over to Boreas Seabed, there are some pretty sweet enemies called Island Guardians.
Oh, I didn't see those.
You didn't see any Island Guardians? Do you know what they are?
No. I probably have run into them, but I can't remember what they look like.
So they're big, giant, like root creatures, but I think they have like kind of a big head that has like, it's made of like dirt and trees. It's like they're a walking island, like an island with roots beneath it. Yeah, it's very cool. They're very cool. They're huge.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where I ran into a collector named Lucy. She's right outside.
Lucy?
Yeah, just Luci, Lucy. She's Luxon. She's right outside Boreas Seabed, and she says she wants Guardian Moss, not only because it cures diseases, but because it's worn by Luxon monks to show how their power and prowess in battle. So kind of tying the local fauna into the lore, which is pretty cool.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't think I fought an Island Guardian. I believe they're monks, and I think they're level 28, so they're like not... Yeah, they're not to be trifled with.
Right.
Did you make it to Boreas Seabed okay?
Yes. Mainly because I was trying not to aggro anyone. I didn't feel like... So I ran into Yetis and Wallows on the way.
I did not fight a Yeti.
I avoided them.
You can weave through the enemy mobs here.
And
it's
that's
not
exactly
dense.
what I did.
Yeah. It's not densely populated at all.
Yeah, so I did a lot of weaving, and I made it to Boreas Seabed, talked to the gatekeeper there.
And they give us the usual spiel about like, oh, normally you wouldn't be allowed in, but Togo's awesome, so we'll go right ahead.
And are you sure you want to go in? Are you sure you're part? And you know the multiple pop-ups. Are
you triple dog dare? Sure. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. It's great.
No, but the whole line of, I see Master Togo's with you, I wouldn't dream of denying him passage, and you're like, okay.
It really is the story of the whole game, just like...
Apparently we brought the right cool guy with us.
Yeah, because I feel like in the Prophecies storyline, our character... The reason why there's 25 missions in Prophecies is because our character needs to go somewhere, and they're like, you got to do a whole mission before we'll let you in.
Right.
And in Factions,
that's very true.
In Factions, they cut the mission amount in half because now we just go like, oh, we're with Togo, and they just let you in.
They're like, oh, cool.
Yeah, and that's why we have only half the missions in Factions, because they were like, what if we just cut out all these times the player has to work for their food? Yeah. Which is an interesting storytelling choice, but it also makes the story a lot more streamlined and focused. So I can't say that it's a bad thing. No. There's a cutscene when we enter Boreas Seabed.
Yes, and it's another one with good voice acting.
Yeah, so I Elder Rhea's voice actor, I don't have a problem with any of the choices. I just think it's funny that she sounds like a 50-year-old woman who's been smoking for 40 years.
Master Togo, you are quite a sight. I wondered when you would emerge from your self-styled exile. How you managed to live within the confines of that stuffy monastery, I'll never comprehend.
Yeah.
But like
She does sound like a very yes.
She looks like this though, so like she sounds like what she looks like, which is great.
Yeah. But I don't think she'd be a smoker. But they gave her smoker voice for sure.
They really did. Yeah, it's not unlike what they did to Rox in Guild Wars 2, and they changed her voice actor.
Oh my gosh.
Big elder Rhea vibes from Rox. Rhea. Sorry.
Yeah.
And there's just like giant turtles everywhere.
Yeah.
The Luxons live different.
They sure do. Like they're like the giant, and by giant turtles, friends, if you've never seen the turtles, you'll probably see them in the footage in the background. But they are essentially the size of buildings.
Yeah, they like live on them.
Yes.
And they use them for transport. I don't know. So like the turtles in the in the outpost, I think they have fins.
Yeah, I think they're supposed to be kind of like sea turtles, but
and
they're
I
just...
I don't know how that works with the Jade Sea being petrified.
Yeah, no, I know. It's like, I think you might need claws, not flippers.
Well, and when we find the Luxon siege turtles later in the games, they have like hands and feet. Not like human hands and feet, but like turtle ones, right? Right. Hands and feet are the wrong way to describe that. They have they have legs like a turtle.
Right.
I don't know where I'm going with this.
I don't know either.
But
it's funny.
Yeah, there is a cutscene. There's like it shows like Luxons flooding in from the surrounding area, right? They're all there for the Convocation.
Yeah, we run behind Togo because he's trying to find Rhea in the milieu of people, and finally spots her. Look, there she is. And so we go over to her, and a really, really funny conversation happens.
They engage in like some old-timer small talk.
Like, oh, you left your monastery. How cool of you for finally getting out of that stuffy place.
She basically disses Togo.
Oh my god, so hard. So hard.
She's like, yeah, you haven't been up to much.
Yeah. He's like, meanwhile out here we've been like, fighting a war. What you been up to?
Yeah, and it's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, and so he's like, yeah, all right, so we need the spear. And she's like, what? Like, I can't just give you the spear. And he's like, but no, we really need it. And she's like, that's nice. Don't you know what we're doing here?
Yeah, she's very much like, dude, come on.
Yeah. And she tells that the event that he's like, oh, it's just a ceremony. No, it's like this annual thing because this is when a Kraken returns annually, and the Convocation is a fight amongst all the clans to wield the spear and defeat the Kraken.
When you put it like this, it sounds like a lot of information, like just right up front.
Yeah, but
we went in here not knowing anything, and then they're just like, yeah, this is actually a whole thing.
Yeah, and hilariously, she asks him, what do they teach in that monastery of yours? And he's like, clearly not enough Luxon culture. And I'm like, boom. She just totally mic dropped on him.
She dunked on him hard because like how like awesome of a dude and how scholarly they set up Togo to be. He should know this.
He should. And he straight up doesn't. Yeah,
he absolutely. And I love that the writers of the game like pointed this out because I think here's my theory. I bet whoever is like editing is like, dude, Togo should know this. And they were like,
he should.
They were like, fuck, you're right. What do we do? And they just like worked it into the cutscene, which is a much more fun way of doing it. Yeah, that's good stuff. I like that.
Yeah. So she basically says, if you want the spear, you're gonna fight. You're gonna have to fight for it.
Yeah, and there's 3 clans, I want to say. And she says in order to give us the spear, we have to take part and win in the Convocation. Yep. Including killing the Kraken Zuhanuku.
Yep.
Zuhanuku is my favorite mini-pet in Guild Wars because he's the biggest mini-pet.
Yeah, he's kind of ginormous.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Zuhanuku when he spawns, but it's awesome. I'm a big fan of this mission. I think it's very cool. Yeah. And it's just kind of a different... It's different than a lot of the other missions we've played. Mm-hmm. It's not like a search and destroy type of thing, which is what most of these missions have been.
Yeah.
We start out with a gladiator fight, and then we go and kill the Kraken. Like, it's great. Did you run around the outpost and talk to all the people there?
No.
So everybody you fight in the mission are NPCs in the mission outpost, and they're hanging around at their respective clan camps.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
What do they have to say for themselves?
Yeah, so when you go around this outpost and talk to these guys, you can talk to Argo, who he'll be addressing the crowd. I think he addresses the crowd at the end of the cutscene we just watched, actually. Mm-hmm. And in that cutscene, actually, did you catch the Roman gladiator reference in the cutscene from Argo?
No, what did he say?
Yeah, so we don't really know who Argo is, but he's holding up the spear in front of the crowd, and he's like, I put the spear back on the plinth, right? So that we can fight for it for the Convocation. This indicates that Argo is the previous champion who won the spear before. We find out if we go talk to him that he's with the Turtle clan. He says, to those who we are about to defeat, I salute you.
Yes.
Which is, it's used in the movie Gladiator.
Gladiator,
They say, we who are about to die salute you.
Salute you, yep.
And there is some historians say that there were some times where a gladiator actually said this, like to the emperor in like real history.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a fun reference there.
That is cool.
Yeah, I like that. Kind of poignant. Gladiator 2 just came out. Yeah.
Don't get me started.
Have you seen Gladiator 2?
I have not.
I have not either. I don't know if I will.
I don't know if I will either. I loved Gladiator. This is not a Gladiator podcast, but I will just say that I loved that movie.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Gladiator. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Gladiator. So I'm not so hot on the existence of Gladiator 2 either. Anyway,
it's a good movie. Anyways, yes.
Yeah.
Back to Guild Wars.
Yeah. So when you talk to Argo, like in the outpost, he says he's the champion of the Turtle and that he will win.
Right.
He says, and then that's pretty much all he has to say. But if we go and talk to a guy whose name is Linus, which is really funny, he's also on Argo's team for the Turtle clan. Linus says that Boreas Seabed is right across from Cavalon, which is like the Luxon capital. Yeah. So we're like on the city outskirts, basically. This is this Boreas Seabed area is where you come for the Convocation. They're technically coming to Cavalon, but they're not like in Cavalon, right?
Right.
So he gives us
Cavalon adjacent.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like a borough, right? We're over in Queens. And so that he kind of contextualizes the geography for us a little bit. There's a lady named Seaguard Hala. Seaguards are like the adjutant to the champions. They're like the right hand person. It's their job to like protect the champions in combat.
Right.
She has some really good information about the Spear of Archimedes. Okay. Because when we did the Tenekai Temple mission, I was like, well, if you watch the CGI trailer, no one's wielding a spear or an urn. How does that work? Seaguard Hala actually says that the Spear of Archimedes is made out of Archimedes' bones. It is not actually a spear that he wielded.
No wonder that his spirit is in the spear.
Yeah, exactly. So like that cleared up a lot. I was like, okay, so these artifacts weren't necessarily wielded by these guys, but they contain the spirits of these guys, right?
Right.
So I assume it's the same deal with the urn of Saint Victor, right? He didn't necessarily
assuming that his ashes are in there.
Yeah, which totally checks out with the whole bundle item thing that ritualists do. So just clearing up my complaints from previous episodes because they explain it later and it's fine. Good on the ArenaNet writing team. They've done a really good job of heading off my objections in this season.
That's good.
We can talk to Elder Rhea, and she says that she wished Menlo had come because he's charming.
Oh my god, I screen capped that because she tells us that when we go to turn in the quest.
Yeah.
And I wrote down, oh my god, even Elder Rhea has the hots for Menlo.
They're really going hard on Menlo just being a hunk.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see that dear boy. He's so charming.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god.
They are full steam ahead on this Menlo the Hunk
yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
Yep. And she kind of serves as a podium person for this mission. If you ask her for like advice on the mission, she'll tell you what the kind of attacks each team is going to use against you. Like how the turtle clan will use elemental magic, crab clan will use spirits, and serpent clan will use like ranger pets and
I
stuff.
wish I had talked to these guys.
Yeah, and Elder Cleo over at the crab clan area, she gives us some interesting info on when you kill the Kraken. She says that the Luxons use the burst of energy emitted when Zuhunuku dies to resurrect all the fallen competitors. So it's like it's a fight to the death, but like you get resurrected after, so it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is how we get all the info from like the other champions. Like I think Damon is one of them, and then I don't remember who the other one is. Aurora. Yeah. Like they fight every year and like you die, but that's how they're here. Like resurrection is not just a game mechanic, it's very real in the game. So that's they kind of contextualize the mission really well.
Nice.
And then we do the mission.
Yeah.
How'd this go for you?
It was not bad at all. I remember, well, you had also told me, which was great because you had said, watch out for Argo.
I did.
He's dangerous. And I was like, I kind of remember that. And so when we got to his group, I went straight for him, targeted him, and one-shot him, and then I worried about his cronies.
Well, the annoying thing about all the enemies in this initial like gladiator section, because we basically have to fight the Luxon clans for the right to carry the spear to kill the Kraken. They all have a res signet.
Yep.
And it takes 3 seconds to charge up, so you can like interrupt it. But my team wasn't super successful with that, so I had to repeat kill several people. I actually died on my first attempt to Argo. Because he's a fire elementalist and is level 24, and
he has a really, really badass skill.
He hurts really bad. Yeah. He has meteor shower, which how this works is each clan is like behind a gate, and they raise it up, and if you're fast enough, well, you don't even have to be that fast. They're very slow. You can run in the gate and like fight them, like spawn camp them, right? This is not a good idea against Argo because it funnels your group into a very small area for his AoEs. So I fed to Argo my first attempt, and then I redid the mission, and I lured him outside, and there's a little high ground area, and I went up there, and I did much better.
Yeah, he's got Mind Burn as his elite.
And that just hits you twice, right? Yeah.
Targets the foe and all adjacent foes.
Yeah, he has that. He has Meteor Shower, which is just absolutely debilitating. Big damage,
and
knockdown.
It knocks you down. Yeah.
Yeah, very scary guy. The Turtle Clan is the previous champion, so you fight them last. You fight the Serpent Clan and the Crab Clan first. They're not hard.
No.
They're pretty easy.
Yeah, the bosses are rangers. They're not scary.
Yeah, Damon is the crab and Aurora is the serpent. And then they've each got, I think, Seaguard Eli is with one of them and Seaguard Gita is with the other.
Yes.
Seaguard Gita is a monk, but she's not a very competent one, so it's fine.
Right.
We kill all these people and we get to grab the spear from the plinth.
Yeah.
The spear is kind of cool. It charges up with kills rather than taking damage, so it's a lot easier to use. And it does a lot of damage too if you like fully charge it. Yeah. You charge it 5 levels, I think.
Yes, that's correct.
1 level per kill, and at level 5 it does like 300 damage a second for like multiple seconds. When you drop it, it's really good. So I did charge it up and drop it repeatedly. That was fun.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
It's on a very delayed like activation once you drop it, so it doesn't really work against trash mobs, but it works great against the Kraken.
It really works great against the Kraken. Yep.
And on our way to the Kraken, there's a lot of cool like fish enemies. I like the enemy
that can't swim through water because the water is jade.
Yeah, and they've like evolved to deal with that.
Yeah, it's cool.
You have these things called Leviathan claws that are just like giant lobsters.
Yeah.
You've got scuttlefish, which like can fly. And then you've got creeping carps, which have like developed appendages and they can walk.
Yeah, they got legs.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I quite like the enemy, like the sea themed enemies in the Jade Sea.
Yeah, they're very cool.
And there are also Kraken spawn.
Kraken spawn, which are basically just little mini squids.
They're Eidolons.
Yes.
Yeah, this model is.
I've seen this model before.
Yeah, this model is the Eidolon and the Phantom from Guild Wars Prophecies. Zuhanuku, however, is a unique model, and he's pretty cool.
Yes. Yeah, well, I mean, is he unique? I mean, he's big, and he's got, like, that jade helmet thing that he just throws on himself when
That's
he
what
spawns.
I think is so cool. He spawns, and he's, like, naked, and then he, like, summons jade armor, and it snaps onto him like he's a fucking Power Ranger. It's dope.
It is.
I like the Zuhanuku cutscene.
Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah, so I like him.
And I'd forgotten that he did that, so when he did it, I was like, oh, damn!
Yeah, no, I love that he summons jade armor for himself. And then he's like a spiky
I was like, that's
menace.
pretty badass. Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. So he's like real big, kind of phantom skinned guy. And he's level 30. And he has just ass loads of health.
Yes. And he's got a scary skill called Jade Fury.
I noticed he got my party pretty low at some points.
Yeah. So you've got to, if you can interrupt him from using that skill, it helps. And then if you've got a nice charged up Spear of Archimoris, that can also make things easier.
Yeah, I opened the fight with the spear to do like a quick,
Yep.
however, like 1500 damage or whatever the full tick of that does.
Yeah.
And then I just wailed on him and trusted my life to my monks.
Yeah, and I think I had, I must have had a mesmer with me. I guess, who was it, Losha at that point? I can't even remember. But I have been carrying around a spirit that does interrupts. So I made sure to get to that guy popped up.
Is the interrupt spirit, is that dissonance?
Maybe?
I don't know.
You would think that I would remember the name of this.
I do remember the interrupt spirit. Ritualists are good, guys.
Yeah.
They're just good. They can do everything. Like they
Yes,
can do
it is
everything.
dissonance.
Yeah, they can do everything other classes do. They just do it with spirits. I'm very jealous that Miko gets to play Ritualist because Assassin kind of sucks. Assassin doesn't really become good until you get Nightfall. All the good Assassin skills are in Nightfall. It's kind of trash in Factions, but I will persevere.
We've committed now, so
Yeah.
you have to.
No, we're in it. Like it's happening. We do manage to defeat Zuhanuku.
Yes.
And Menlo catches up to let us know that Shiro is moving in the Undercity. So Togo's basically like, "Oh, that was fucking awesome, bro." And then Menlo shows up and is just like, "We gotta go."
Yeah. So I immediately thought, well, I mean, Menlo's shown up. I wonder if Elder Rhea is happy to see him. And now we're just going now, so she's gonna be sad again.
Is this a romance game?
I'm wondering because apparently they're writing it in.
Is this a visual novel? Should I be?
Oh my gosh, it's so funny.
We need somebody needs to code a Guild Wars Factions visual novel where you're Menlo and you just pursue the affections of like 7 different characters.
7 yes.
Yeah, and the win objective of the game is to successfully court as many women at the same time as you can.
Without Sin frying your ass.
Yeah, the lose condition is Sin just incinerating you. Yeah. Somebody get on that. Somebody with game making talent. Make that. I'll play it. We'll play it. We will live stream it.
Oh my gosh.
And start to finish. We'll live stream the whole thing.
There you go.
I'm counting on nobody doing that.
Uh-huh.
So this is kind of the end point where we leave off because we've now completed 2 kind of side-by-side missions. They kind of occupy the same spot in the story, so I think it was good to do them both in the same episode.
Yes. Our next task is to go and take the fight to Shiro in the Undercity, which we will be doing next time.
Yeah, and the side quests are growing thin at this part of the story, but I think a lot more side quests open up when we get to the main cities of the Kurzick and the Luxon areas.
Yeah, and there should be some available once we go back into the city as well.
Yeah, and Miko and I are going to be splitting after the next mission. She's going to be helping the Kurzicks, and I'm going to be helping the Luxons. So we're going to have just like a whole episode where we tell each other about completely differing side quests that we do.
Yeah, and I had been, I've played through both back in the day, but my Guild Wars guild was Luxon affiliated, and so I was always being told, no, you must play the Luxons and support the Luxons, and I was like, man, I kind of want to do the Kurzick stuff too. So
your guild was role-playing a little too hard.
A little bit too hard. Yes.
I would usually do the Kurzick side, but I have done the Luxon side before.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll be checking out I think we're going to Sunjiang District Mission Outpost next episode.
I think that is correct.
And that will be... I don't remember anything about that mission other than like spirit rifts or something. I don't know. We'll find out.
Remember. Yeah. That does sound kind of... Yeah.
I think Shiro is like meditating in a spirit ball. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and we got to fight some
familiar.
constructs, maybe.
It's
coming back to me. So we'll tackle that next time. We will join us next time for the further adventures of Menlo in the world of romance.
Yes.
And that's going to be it for us this round, guys. So next time will be episode 24. Miko, where can people find you on the internet?
The good people can find me at Inky Sticks on your social media platform of choice.
And as for us, Tyria, then we are on. Our account is usually called Tyria Now. We're on Twitter/X. We are now on Blue Sky. We're on YouTube, which is probably where you're watching this, and then we're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, which also is probably where you're listening to this.
Yep.
So go find those if you haven't yet. If you're on episode 23 and you haven't done that yet, I don't know what to tell you, other than go do it. So go find us on all that stuff and give us a follow so that you can see the next episode. And until that comes out, we will see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye, guys.